Big Questions with the Dead Milkmen. Tonight's big question is name an album, not necessarily the album that changed your life. And I'm saying an album versus the album, because I think every now and then your life should be changed by albums on a pretty regular basis. I think, you know, if there's one album that's changed your life, that's cool. I'm left with questions. So I'm actually going to go, and I'll put a list. I'm thinking about putting a list in the comments of like albums that have changed my life. So starting from when I was super young to now that I'm super old. But I'm going to go with, and I hope nobody else chose this one. I'm going to go with the album that not only changed my life, it actually saved my life. This is Angelspit's House. Which is an amazing album that I'm going to talk about now. And I'm probably going to cut myself off because I get all smiley when I talk about this album and I could talk about it forever. This takes us back to either 2006 or 2007. There's a lot of shadowy mystery about when this album came out. I remember having it in 2006, but all the official stuff says 2007. Back in 2006, I walked into Digital Ferret, and that was run by Patrick Rogers, who was a guest on the show. Remember him? Big vampire-looking guy, had some books out there, and I traveled to like North Korea. If you go watch that episode, that's Patrick. And Patrick, I was really depressed. I was really super, super down. And I walked into Digital Ferret, and I said, you know, just tell him, Patrick, I'm really bummed. You know, it's nah, nah, nah. And Patrick said, he reached behind the counter, and he pulled out this Angelspit album that just come out. And he said, this will fix it. And if it doesn't fix it, I'll give you your money back. And Patrick has always said that to him. He's like, if you don't like it, I'll give you your money back. And I used to think that's a really odd policy for someone who runs a store. And then it dawned on me, he's been right about I've never asked for my money back once. So I was like, took the album home, started playing it. And the opening track is called a la mode, you know, a la mode, and then of death. And I really, the first sound is almost like it could fit on like a Bowie Berlin trilogy sound. It's just almost sounds like a subway car or a train pulling up, and I was hooked instantly. And for those of you who are younger viewers might not remember, 2006 was when barista rock was really beginning to establish itself. Like I did not feel like I fit in anywhere. This was like when all the acts, and they still do now. I mean, it's bad now, but everybody sounded like James Taylor. So there's all these people like, I like to go outside and grass is my friend. And these people are shouting, God made me a cannibal to fix problems like you. And I'm like, yes, I found my kindred again. I am 100% it was like rediscovering the Ramones. The songs were fast, they were loud, they were angry, but they were fun. Like I love Youth Code, but Youth Code is straight up anger. And they're almost the same configuration as the first Angelspit album, where you have a young lady singing and you have a gentleman on synthesizers, the way Youth Code are. That's the way the first Angelspit album is, but it is just grabs you by the head and shakes you. And I like art that engages with you. I think art that's not engaging with you is basically decoration. This is really an album. It's like a declaration of war. It is straight up freaking crazy. There's a saying that Zug, who does the synth work and was way ahead of modular before a lot of people, as he talks about writing a tattoo line. And a tattoo line is something that's so good, you would actually get it tattooed on yourself. And there's a song that ends this album called Wreak Havoc, and every line is a freaking tattoo line. They are super incredible. And when I heard this, it really revitalized me. I'm like, I want to continue to be in music. This is when I went out and I started learning from different people how to remix. It's when I started learning how to DJ. Eventually, I got my radio show because nobody was talking about this kind of music. It was literally, Pitchfork not going to write about Angelspit. They'll write about the guy going outside to see my lawn. But this was just something outside their kin. And I'm still out there sort of like promoting this stuff. The band went through a lot of incarnations. At one point, they grew out to be a 5-piece, and they were freaking incredible. They had a guy called The Liar who just did video stuff. He built like a video synthesizer, and he was like this straight up punk rock dude. He was like my age. And he, I met him. He had like minor threat patches on his jacket. It was just Valerie Abbey, who has like a 1,000 different names. Yeah, we actually, you guys met her husband. He was doing sound at the New York show. He's in Abbey Death with her. She had been in Black Tape for a Blue Girl. She'd been in the Cruise Shadows. I know some of you don't know what I'm talking about. I'm okay with that. She'd done all this amazing stuff, just a great guitar. She was in the band. If you look at the video for Like It, Lick It, you'll see her playing guitar. Also, this band is fronted, was at this time, fronted by an incredible woman named Amelia Arsenic, known as Destroy X. And at this time, there's a lot of 2006 people talking about empowering women's music and empowering women's music. And I realize, like, I'm a guy saying this, but it looked to me like, here's your oversized sweater, here's your big, thick horn ring glasses, and now sing how you're so scared about the world. And, you know, and basically Amelia's saying that the world should be afraid of her. I mean, it's really incredible stuff. It really brought me back from the brink. I use a lot of it, inspiration story stuff. You listen to Anthropology Days, that glitchy beginning, that's an homage to 100%. So people, if you're listening to this, go listen to our song Anthropology Days, listen to the glitch at the beginning. Make sure you listen to 100% all the way through, because that's a fucking incredible song. So yeah, I mean, trying to explain this to people who aren't into it is like trying to explain sometimes Killdozer to Journey fans, but that's my lot in life. I'm totally fine with it. I realize it put me on a different trajectory from 90% of the people watching this. That's just how life is. So I'm going to say, please, I'll put up videos for Channel Hell, Toxic Girl. I had to put up the censored video because apparently YouTube doesn't have the uncensored video. I've seen the uncensored video. I am a changed man, maybe not for the better. I'll put up all that stuff. Please check it out. If you like it, please tell people, because this band should have been huge. And they weren't, and it's always something that's kind of bugged me. So if you can just spread the word, maybe they'll get used again. Maybe they'll be the full 5 reunion. Right now, it's just Zoog doing stuff sort of by himself, but he's still great. Every Angelspit album is fantastic. The new single, Amosexual, is incredible. You know, they're obviously not neutered rock. They're out there doing their thing. So, and I will leave you with one of my favorite Angelspit quotes, which is, "I needed motivation. You sent a postcard that said punk rock. Well, fuck you too." So thank you. Please check out Angelspit, people. They pulled me back from the brink.
One of the albums that changed my life, I heard when I was, I think, 15 years old. I listened to this radio station called WIOQ back then, and at the time they had something called ad-free album sides, or uninterrupted album sides, where they would just play an side of an album, you know, with the spaces between the songs included. And I think this was in the winter, probably early 1978. I'm just guessing, because I was in 10th grade. And they announced that at the top of the hour, they're going to play on a side of the Ramones' Rocket to Russia. And I got very excited and got my tape deck all ready to record it too. Because I'd never heard the Ramones before, but I knew of them by reading about them. And my knowledge of punk rock at the time was limited pretty much to having seen a snippet of the Sex Pistols on a news program that my parents happened to be watching at the time, and I liked it. And so I listened to the side. It was side 1 of Rocket to Russia, and I loved it. I had it on tape, and I immediately knew I had to get the rest of the album. So the next time my family went to the Exton Square Mall, I went with them and found Rocket to Russia there in Sam Goody's and bought it, and pretty much fell in love with it. And I'd say it changed the trajectory of my life, because it made me, up till then, I wanted to be Bob Dylan. I had learned some songs from a songbook, that some of the very songs that Rodney doesn't like. I figured out.
Not my fault.
You don't like
Society has spoken, not me.
But anyway, to cut a long story short, I fell in love with this album. I liked its humor. I even liked the lyric sheet. I was glad it came with the lyric sheet, because I couldn't make out some of the words just from hearing them at first. And the lyric sheet, it was, the songs were funny, and it kind of changed the way I approached music, and now I wanted to be punk instead of a folk artist.
Young people, and Joe, you might be able to speak to this too. And Joe Dean and I are all the same age. Dan's a little bit younger, but young people will never understand what the advent of the Ramones was like. In other words, like, you know, young people grow up in a world where people walk around wearing Misfits shirts, Joy Division shirts, that sort of stuff. But the Ramones were like aliens landed in your backyard. They were completely different, particularly from anything that was out there on the radio. The radio was all sort of like mellow, like Kansas, Dust in the Wind and stuff. And then these guys come and they were completely...
It was just crazy that WIQ would even play an album side of this thing. I don't know how that happened.
Yeah, that was a station that did Breakfast with the Beatles.
They did. I did listen to that. And
yeah, Helen Light.
I mean, I would hear album sides of like Steely Dan on that show. And
yeah.
I heard album sides of Dylan.
The Rolling Stone review.
Not the Ramones. And then I got excited thinking this is going to be the next big thing. And I was hoping that they would be as big as the Beatles. And I thought Sheena as a Punk Rocker was a #1 hit, but it didn't turn out to be. In fact, punk wouldn't become, I mean, I wanted for the Ramones to be as successful as Green Day was on their Dookie album, but it wasn't to be. I don't think they got success in the United States until after maybe they were done touring. Like after they stopped, but that's besides the point.
Well, it's interesting because Rolling Stone in those magazines, they didn't even consider the Ramones albums to be music. Now, again, young people who grew up in an age of speedcore and death metal, they considered it so fast that they were like, it's too fast for us to understand. I'm not lying. This is really like what we grew up in. I had the same thing I was talking about the Angelspit album. I thought this is going to flip everything over and blow up, and this band will be huge. But then I've come to learn that the music industry is about telling you about some bands, but making sure that you never discover some other bands.
And I loaned the record to a couple of my friends in 10th grade homeroom. neither of them really liked it, so I don't know. I couldn't get people to like it, but I thought of it as like, oh, it's like early Beach Boys or rock and roll on steroids, and I could relate to it musically.
I remember being so impressed that you knew about them. I was just like, oh, he was out to Ramones, cool.
Well, that's the album that changed my life initially. One of them.
I was born in October of that year.
Yeah, right.
So we guess it did change your life by bringing you into the world.
Yeah, they never actually found my father.
Yeah. There was a ceremony in the hills on a rock.
They're looking at Dee Dee, though. Well, that's cool. The album of many, there's so many that did change my life in a lot of different ways. The one I chose to talk about is Amy Winehouse, Back to Black, because I didn't discover it until like maybe about 5 years ago, I guess. I started doing the sexton work at the church. It was a different church. It was the one where they didn't want me there while people were there. So it was like I could be there anytime between 10 p.m. and like 7 a.m. And I was there at all hours sometimes, like just cleaning and like fixing stuff up and whatever. But I had never really heard, I hadn't heard any of the songs. I'd only kind of heard of her. I didn't even know that she was dead at the time. And some people kept saying like, oh, you should listen to this sometime. And I finally, like I had a copy of a CD somehow, and I just put it on when I was cleaning the church. And I couldn't stop listening to it. And I just was like, what is so fascinating about this? And looking into it and finding out that she wrote like all the stuff, like I guess most of it. She had producers and stuff. She plays guitar, and like just her voice, like there's certain voices that like I just can't, like I like Janis Joplin and James Brown and like Freddie Mercury and these people, like when I first heard them, like I just, something like changed in like my brain chemistry. I'm really sensitive to like frequencies and sounds and stuff. So it's kind of weird. I get this like kind of feeling like there's like, it's like these uncontrollable chills, like when I hear Amy Winehouse's voice. And then I looked in and all this stuff and like, she's dead. Oh, why is she dead? Oh, that's ridiculous. Why is the world like this? Oh my God. And then you see that documentary, which just makes you want to pull your heart out. I don't know. Just to think that she really was just like a musician who wanted to be successful and like got into like that system, you know, and like got into the drugs and the image and could still belt the fuck out of a song. It's amazing. If you haven't ever really listened to it, it's worth listening to. I was blown away, and I couldn't believe it was like came out in 2006, I think, and I'd never heard it. And like I said, I was like, oh my God, and she's dead. She's not even making more music. That sucks. But everything on it, you know, she's like singing about having struggles with drinking and addiction and like heartache. And I was like alone in this building, like just like listening to this. It's like echoing off the bathroom stalls, you know, when I'm cleaning a toilet. It's just kind of just kind of like, I don't know. And it changed me. It's hard to explain why it changed me. It just kind of like reminded me that like there are these like magic voices that come along. And unfortunately, most of the people I've named just then, like they died young, I guess. I don't know.
Do you ever listen to any Dusty Springfield?
Yeah.
Because I've noticed that I would recommend, there's people who love Amy Winehouse, and I'll say, check out Dusty. And there's always a great like crossover there where people go, oh my God, this is absolutely, it's very close and very, you know, and also Dusty Springfield, a very sad story about what the music industry did to her just because, you know, she was gay, and they pretty much, you know, back then they hit it and kind of destroyed her career. But her, yeah, it's I always, when I recommend one to the other, people always will, sometimes younger people who know about Amy Winehouse will go back and check out Dusty Springfield and like, my heart's broken. I'm like, should have warned you. Yeah.
Also, Dolly Parton turns out is just Bruce Springsteen, but on 33. True.
Yep.
Look into it. Play it. Listen for yourself. Take a Dolly Parton 45 and play it at 33, and you tell me that it's not Bruce Springsteen singing.
I would, Dan, but I played Black Sabbath at 78 and I saw God.
Well, these are all very good albums, interesting stories. I'm going to take you back, I guess, close to the year, Joe, I'm going to take you back to the year 1978. Some of you may have heard me say before in interviews or whatever that I used to be really into prog rock. I've seen Yes a few times, Genesis a few times, Rush a few times. I saw a band called Emerson, Lake and Palmer, I think twice. The first time was in, I think, 1976 or 77 at the Spectrum. I think it was my very first big rock concert in Philadelphia at the Spectrum. 1978, Emerson, Lake and Palmer released an album called Love Beach.
Oh my God. The Pirate album? Is it the Pirate album?
It's the cover of them. You can see the cover probably. Joe's going to put it over here. Is a picture of the three of them in shirts unbuttoned down to their navels, standing on a beach. So the story behind this album is that Atlantic Records, which was the label they were signed to, Ahmet Erdogan, called him into the office and said, boys, we need a hit. We need to get you to record a commercial album. And they were like, well, you know, we just want to do our thing. We have a, you know, we like to do what we like to do. And they were like, well, you're not going to release your solo albums unless you give us another album. You got one more album on your contract. If you want solo albums, you got to do a commercial album for us. And so they agreed to do this album. They recorded it down in Nassau in the Bahamas at Compass Point. They were down there already, or at least some of them were down there already for tax reasons. So they recorded this album. It is so turgid and so horrible. It is just the worst piece of dreck you could imagine. So me being into prog rock, and Emerson, Lake and Palmer was one of my favorite bands. Carl Palmer's like, you know, he was an amazing drummer. And I got this album and I listened to it, and I'm like, this is just horrible. It turned out to be their last album. They broke up soon after it came out. They never toured on it. They did get back together, and I didn't even realize this. They got back together, I think, like 20 years later to release a couple of albums. But they were just, it was such a horrible album. And 1978, you know, I had already started listening to other kinds of interesting music. Like, I don't know, I can't recall when the first time I heard the Ramones, but I did a little research. 1978 was a pretty amazing year for albums. The Ramones' Road to Ruin came out in 1978. Joe, I don't know if you followed up and bought Road to Ruin when it came out, probably right afterwards. Other albums that came out that year, there's a band from, I guess they're from Australia, called The Saints, that came out. Their album called Eternal Yours. I'm looking at a list here. Public Image Limited, first issue came out that year. The Clash, Give 'Em Enough Rope, came out in 78. X-Ray Specs, their first album, Germ Free Adolescence, came out in 1978. I could go down the list. Patti Smith, Easter came out that year. What else? All Mod Coms by The Jam came out that year. Dub Housing by Perubu came out that year. Outlandos d'Amour from The Police came out in 78. Magazine, Real Life came out that year. Ambient #1, Music for Airports from Brian Eno came out in 1978. So 1978 was an amazing year for music. And what did I do? I went out and bought Love Beach by Emerson, Lake and Palmer. And it changed my life. It did. It's like, okay, I'm done with this. I'm done with this crap. I'm done with prog rock. I've got all this great new music. Because I did already start to listen to some of this stuff already. So it's not like I was, stuck in the past listening to prog rock. But so yeah, this is an album that kind of was a turning point for me. I bought it on vinyl. I just for this episode, I went on YouTube. You can listen to the songs on YouTube. I couldn't even get through it. I couldn't even get through a whole song. They were so bad.
The only reason I know that album exists is because Oliver Rockside had a series called You're Just the Worst. And he counted down the 100 worst songs in rock and roll. And the first episode was that album and that 6-minute pirate song that's on it. And I'll send you a link.
I think it's 20 minutes, Rodney. I think
it might be 20 minutes. I started
is like one song and 4 movements, you know.
I started crying about 6 minutes into it. And I guess by the 20-minute mark, I needed one of those jazzy mobile scooters. I was just completely destroyed. Oh. I'll send you a link to it. Oliver Rockside, I was like, how does this exist? And that was like, I thought, this is the beginning of the series, and they're going to keep getting worse as it goes along. But I had no idea. But that was, if you look at the series, the podcast series for that, that's the cover for it. It has it's that album with Emerson, Lake and Palmer dressed like they're on their way to Margaritaville. It is. Yeah. I would not have known it existed if it weren't for that. If I had not known that, I'd be sitting here going, I think Dean's pulling my leg.
No, it was just terrible. And I was so disappointed that one of my favorite bands just released this pile of garbage. More albums that came out in 78. The Cars, the first album. Kraftwerk, The Man Machine came out. Nick Lowe, Jesus of Cool came out. Blondie, Parallel Lines came out in 78. I mean, all these great records.
What was that?
Devo, Are We Not Men? We Are Devo came out.
What was Dave Blood listeing to in that time, like 78?
Mostly police sirens outside of his home. He led a wild life.
You guys didn't meet him for another couple of years.
I didn't meet Dave.
You know what he was listening to?
Yeah, we didn't meet Dave.
Didn't meet him till later.
So we didn't. I don't know what he was listening to.
And well, actually, Indiana, where he was a separate scene.
So I was just curious because he was older. So I wonder when he was a teenager what he was listening to, like Bowie and stuff, probably. And then he
Bowie
rock or stuff. Or did he go into like just punk and stuff?
No, he had no prog rock phase. But what happened was he lived in Indiana, which had created this almost bubble. So you had like the Gizmos there, Dow Jones and the Industrials. There was almost like a whole separate music scene there that existed outside from the rest of the world. So it was like sort of like a proto-punk, early new wave kind of, yeah.
Yeah, that's cool. It makes sense.
So anyway, that's my album. It's one of the albums that was definitely a turning point in my life as far as my musical tastes go.
I like the twist in the show, though. All of a sudden, it wasn't a good album that changed your life. There was a bad album that changed your life, but you had a year that changed your life.
Yeah.
So that was awesome. It's time for recommendations. All right, so my first recommendation this week, and I got to tell you, I get a lot of mail that asks me, Rodney Anonymous, is there a fun way to learn critical theory? Well, there is now, and that is to go to a video, and we'll put up the link, called Stock Music and Reality TV. This thing is freaking amazing. A guy generally dissects the stock music used in reality TV and how it affects people's emotions. And a lot of you may be saying, well, I don't watch reality TV. And to which I will say, that's right, but you'd be surprised the large number of Americans whose mindset is completely shaped by reality TV. So much so that they will elect people because they've seen them on reality TV. So please check this video out. It is absolutely fascinating. The man who does it does a lot of music, a lot of videos about music, the psychology of music. He knows enough about critical theory to be very, very interesting. And as a big critical theory fan myself, I really appreciated it. So the second recommendation, and I don't even know if recommendation is the right word for this. Now that you've got your lesson in critical theory and reality TV, you're going to need to watch a reality TV show. And that is why I am recommending Portals to Hell. Portals to Hell stars Jack Osbourne, Ozzy's son. Now, you may think that Jack Osbourne has seen a boxcar full of crazy, or maybe he's seen a whole crazy train. But it's basically Jack Osbourne with a paranormal show, and we already know the problem I have with Ghost Hunters. I'm not a big fan. I think that there's probably some crossover there between Ghost Hunters and QAnon. But Jack Osbourne, it's him. I've only managed to make it through 10 minutes of one episode, but it's him running around with somebody, and they're like in a hotel in Anchorage, which they are convinced is haunted. And they're talking to this guy who goes, yes, in the 1970s, there was a satanic coven that met in the basement. And I'm sitting at home thinking, you need 13 people for a coven. There weren't 13 people in Anchorage, Alaska in the 70s, let alone 13 Satanists you could get together and put in a basement. So I would just like to talk to my fellow Satanists for a minute. Lean in, fellow Satanists. Jack Osbourne is onto us. We gotta hide. So so please, if you can make it through that show, there's a list of the 10 best episodes. If enough people put one in the comments section, I'll watch it and I'll let you know next week how it was. But so learn something about critical theory with stock music and reality TV. And then if you dare, watch Portals to Hell with Jack Osbourne and some woman who probably wishes she wasn't on the show.
I'm going to recommend an album by SLWCC Watt. And that stands for Samuel Lock Ward, who you may know from previous episodes, and Mike Watt, formerly of the Minutemen Fire Hose. And it's called Real Manic Time. It has 30 songs, but it's only 32 minutes long. So there are a lot of short songs. There are some normal length songs, but most of the songs are under a minute each. The styles range from doo-wop, 60s rock, 60s rock and roll, bubblegum, grunge, avant-garde, jazz, a little spoken word here and there. I don't know. I like it. If you like Samuel Lock Ward's music, you'll definitely like it. I like it. I just found out today that there's a video for every song on the album, also on YouTube if you want to watch it that way. But I got into it by hearing it without video.
I like that too. Sorry.
I like Geordie LaForge's music from Star Trek.
Yeah. I would recommend not chewing the skin around your fingernails. If you don't already do it, don't pick up this habit. Just don't chew the skin.
How do you even do that?
Well, don't pick it either. Well, sometimes it see, not like that. If you do it, you know what I'm talking about, and stop. And if you don't ever start, kids.
Yeah, cut it the fuck out, people. We're watching you.
we'll make this for kids, you know, on YouTube. So
Oh, this will be the first one for kids.
comments off.
It's good the angel spitter in this one. All right, good.
This is only for kids.
And pirates who are into Emerson, they
That's
can
my
pirate.
recommendation.
Okay, I'll try and make it quick. I hate to be materialistic, but I just got a new keyboard for my computer at home, and it's the Logitech MX. It's not cheap. It's not super expensive. It's this. It lights up. It's made out of metal. It's wireless, and it's the most amazing keyboard I've used for my computer. I was using an Apple keyboard on a PC, which is already problematic. But I just picked this up and I highly recommend it. So it's the Logitech MX. That's my recommendation. Yay!